This is Clay Schuette. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to discuss the BP oil spill and the settlements. What I'd like to discuss today is how the settlement agreement affects local businesses, what types of businesses are eligible, how we determine whether a business is eligible, and what that business, if it's eligible, will be compensated by BP. So the first issue is what business is eligible? What types of businesses are eligible? And what the settlement agreement says is it says, look, any business that is listed or that has an address in any county that's on the west coast of Florida, from all the way from the Keys all the way through to the Panhandle to include Hillsborough County, is potentially eligible. And a lot of people ask me, why is that the case? Why do they make it so broad? And as it says there on the screen, is because all businesses are affected by tourism, and that's what the settlement agreement understood, was that everybody's affected by tourism, and so everybody should have an ability to potentially get money from BP for the oil spill and what happened. So the first question again is hey, what businesses are eligible? Any business in a county in the state of Florida on the West Coast that was open as of April 20th, 2010. The only excluded industries are the financial industries, financial consultants and banks, and then people in the insurance industry. But every other type of business is eligible. And the reason is because they believe that all businesses are affected by tourism. So what is it that you have to show then if you are a business? What do you need to show? Basically, what my firm needs is your monthly gross revenue. And I get the question all the time, why your monthly gross revenue? Well, what they said is since everybody's affected by tourism, the best way to see if you were affected or not is to look at your gross revenue, what brought in the door, what you brought in the door. I also often get the question of, well, do I have to specifically prove that BP caused my damages? And no, you don't have to specifically prove that BP caused your damages. It's assumed in the settlement agreement, based on studies done on the Exxon Valdez spill years ago, that every business in this area is either directly or indirectly affected. So essentially, what a business must have to see if they're eligible are their monthly gross revenues. And we look to see if there's one of a couple different economic patterns in there. The main economic pattern and what a business really needs to show is it needs to show in 2010, after the spill, that at least in a 3-month period, it made less revenue than it did in that same 3-month period before the spill. Again, though, what I tell clients is that we have a worksheet that we're more than happy to let them fill out, that all they need to do is put in their monthly gross revenue. Then once that's gone through analysis, then the issue comes up is, okay, well, I've given you my monthly gross revenue. You say that I qualify. What happens next? Essentially, at this point, a business would then have to give my firm both tax records, their tax returns, and also their monthly profit and loss statements. If they don't have monthly profit and loss statements, we can use bank statements or anything else to help create those. The reason why we need those two sets of documents is that the tax returns just confirm that the amount that you're saying you made is correct. It's the monthly P&Ls is how they actually do the breakdown for your damage calculation. And essentially what they do is they, to pay your business, whether you're a law firm, a restaurant, dental office, is they look for your variable net profit. And all that is they take your gross revenue from before the spill, they compare that to your gross revenue after the spill, then they separate out they subtract the variable cost that you have, and that gives you your variable profit. So if an example in 2009, in a 3-month period, you had gross revenues of $20,000 and a variable expenses of $5,000, you'd have a variable net profit of $15,000. If in that same 3-month period you had $10,000 of gross revenue and $3,000 of cost, that'd be $7,000. 15,000 minus 7,000 is 8,000 for a payment. It's not as important, I think, right now for the clients to completely understand how the system or the exact calculations are made. What is important to understand is that it's all going to be based on your tax returns and either your profit and loss statements or your bank statements. Um, as far, so the first thing is what type of business is accepted. Pretty much any business in this area. What do we need to actually see why, if you're qualified or not, your monthly gross revenue. If you do qualify, you'll need to provide your tax returns and your monthly profit and loss statements. As far as, people ask me, well, what about claim size? My average claim right now is a little bit over $90,000 for a business, so it's real money. What if a business does not have a tax return during that period? If they don't have a all right, well, let's answer both questions. If the business started in 2009, then what we would look for is we'd look for the gross revenue starting in May 2010 through April 2012. And in that situation, we would just need the tax return for 9, 10, and 11. If they didn't have the tax returns, we can always file an amended return. But ultimately, we need to file an amended return. Does that answer your question, Jason? As far as, so again, you have the business, you have the types of businesses, what the information we need, and then the types of, how you get paid for your claims. I also get questions all the time, why is BP fighting this, or why did they agree to this settlement agreement? And as I've told a few people, it's because they had to. In short, they had to. Two non-lawyers, yes. And, and in short, BP had to sign this settlement agreement because of the actions that happened. They were essentially gross negligent, and they knew that they could not let this matter go to trial. Again, as far as the documents, understand that when you're dealing with a lawyer and you're turning over your financial information, all that information is kept confidential, pursuant to all laws, besides as well as the confidentiality of the lawyer-client relationship. Just another benefit of working with attorneys in these matters. But, I've given this talk many times.
One of the real problems that I have.
What's that?
Clay, one of the real problems I have, and I'm encountering this over and over again, is clients who are turning over their documents to non-lawyers, these companies out there that aren't bound by the same strict ethical rules that you and I are bound by. I'm real concerned about the liability that they may be facing, and I also am concerned about the effectiveness of those non-lawyer firms that are filling out those returns for people.
I agree 100%, and I'll be real straight about it. If you're with a non-lawyer right now, even if they have gotten your information and filed your claim, I would, if it was me or anybody in my family, I would highly suggest that they terminate that person. They would not have to pay that person because it's the unlicensed practice of law, and that they go find a lawyer who's been doing these types of claims, because this is the practice of law. There's a lot of legal work that goes into this. We have much higher, as Matt, you're aware, we have much higher standards when it comes to handling people's financial documents, making sure that everything is filed legitimately. If my firm as a law firm does not file a legitimate claim, I'm open to all sorts of lawsuits, as I should be. We are trusted professionals, and we have certain ethics. So I tell clients, look, I used to tell them, do what you feel comfortable. But the longer I've been doing this, I tell clients that if they've hired somebody who's not a lawyer, that they can terminate that relationship without anything because it's the unlicensed practice of law. I do know of a case here in Pinellas County where a claimant filed that exact defense against one of these firms and won. So you need to have a lawyer doing this. There's just no two ways about it. And the main reason is one of the things that we were talking about before is right now BP is trying to harass and slow down the whole claims process. And part of that is that they are now appealing every eligibility notice, every claim they're trying to appeal. And this appeal under the settlement agreement goes to a whole group of lawyers. And so you need a lawyer writing the response to BP's appeal. I mean, these are just issues that if you're not familiar with the legal system
And
and
talk a
how
little
this
bit more
works,
about
it's
that
just
appeals
not a great way to
process.
do it. All right, the BP appeals process. There's two things. First of all, in an individual claim, what happens is we file your claim. Then after your claim is filed, it's looked at by accountants and lawyers that are employed by the claim center. They review everything, and then they come back and they say, look, based on our review of everything as a, in response to the settlement agreement, and we've looked at all your submissions, we've looked at the settlement agreement, we believe that you're entitled to X amount of money. And so they'll send an eligibility notice and they'll say, we've reviewed everything for your client, Mr. Schuette, and we believe he's entitled to $100,000. At that point, we accept the eligibility notice. But then BP has a period of 10 days to either accept or reject the payment or appeal the payment. What I will tell you is that all of last year, all the way through December of last year, BP did not appeal a single case of mine. Then once the settlement agreement became final, BP has started appealing most of my claims in the year 2011, as well as every other attorney I've talked to. And so what it does is that if they file an appeal and they lose the appeal, they have to pay an extra 5%, but it can add on a couple months onto the payment process. So, on average right now, a BP claim takes us on average 30 to 60 days to process. It takes the claim center. I've seen them and recently doing it as little as 3 months, and I've seen the claim center take 6, 7, 8 months. It's a little erratic. So what I'm telling clients right now is 30 to 60 days with my firm, and then another 6 to 8 months with the claim center. And then hopefully, if we get lucky, we might get it in 3 or 4 months. But um, do I know? Yeah, I know this. I know that the few appeals so far that I've seen from non-lawyers, I've seen them lose. But that's just, there isn't any actual tracking process. I can just go through and look through every settlement. Um, but so I just know this. I know that if a non-lawyer does it, I know that they look at it differently because I've had other clients tell me that. But let me just, I guess the last thing, or I'll let for any other questions, but the one thing that I did want to talk about is that one of the things about we were talking about the appeal inside the claims period, but some people are also aware that BP is appealing overall. And one of the things I want to make sure that's real clear to everybody is BP is not appealing whether people are entitled to a claim. They're just appealing the amount of the claim, meaning every client that I have right now is entitled to a claim, and BP is not actually challenging that. They're only trying to challenge the amounts of the claims that they're paying out. And as previously discussed, I don't think that they're going to have a very good chance of it. Yeah, and also as it comes to the settlement process and this whole claims process, there's a couple of things that I always stress to my clients. Number one, we have 17 people here working full time on that, and we will talk to you at any time. We will show you anything that you want to see and take you through the process. Towards that end, once we file the claim, I'm going to actually give you your claim number and give you the information so you can access the BP claim site so you can see your claim. And now know that anytime any action's taken with your claim, they always send me an email and we'll reach out and talk to you. But I believe that you have the right anytime and anywhere to always go in and look at your claim and see what the status is. What I promise you is it'll be the same status that I give you, but I still want you to feel comfortable and know that it's your claim. I'm here to assist. No different than any other lawyer, but that's how we really look at it here. So we always give all our clients all their claims information so they can look online. Um, and is so, but back to like I said, so it's again about being up board, and what I want people to really understand is that as a client told me today about BP, they said, BP let that oil run for 30 days before they tried to cap it. And he says, why do you think that is? And his response to me was that they wanted to finish getting, they knew they could have gone down there and stopped it right away, and it might have cost them $100,000 or $100 million in profit. But what they rather did is they wanted to pump the rest of it out. And I just think, when people say that, oh, it's not fair for BP to be paying, BP caused a lot of damage and could have really stopped all this right at the beginning and never did. And again, they signed this settlement agreement. And as I like to joke with my attorney friends, this is not some underfunded defendant. I mean, this is a defendant who has all the resources in the world and knows everything that's going on. They knew what they were getting in the settlement agreement, and they knew it was a good deal for them. And no matter what they're saying in the press right now, but the one thing that everybody needs to know is no matter how much BP fights it, the cutoff date to file your claims is never going to change. And that cutoff date right now is April 22nd of next year. And truthfully, I tell clients you should not be waiting you shouldn't wait. You should come, at least with my firm, it's a free analysis. We'll tell you right up front whether you're qualified or not. We won't waste your time. If you are qualified, it's a purely contingent matter. And in fact, we pay all costs. Your worst case scenario is you lose a little bit of time. But you do need to you do need to look now. It is not something, it's like anything else. It's not something smart to let just sit and wait. And so I highly suggest you do it. I'm always more than happy. I very much enjoy working with Matt. He's a real professional. He does it the right way. And as I tell him, I'll talk to anybody. At any time you have any questions, call me. Any articles you see out there, let me know. I'll respond to them. And if BP ever makes a valid point, I'll agree with them. It's just lately, they've just, when you say that there are fictitious claims when it's not factually impossible under the settlement agreement, and you're not even challenging whether somebody's entitled to a claim or not. That's the big thing on their appeal. They're not even challenging that. And as far as overinflated claims, there's no way you can. Matt, I know that I'll get better at this. I know I get a little excited just because, like I said, there's a lot of misinformation being put out by BP, and this is really a good chance for almost every client that you and I know, almost everybody that we come in contact with face to face, potentially has a claim, and they need to check it out.
Yeah, Clay, the thing that's so exciting to me about this is the fact that so much that's happening in this country right now is working against consumers, our court system, legislation, Congress, state level. But here seems to be one small area where the client, consumers are actually being treated with some amount of fairness. It's not surprising to me that BP is trying to push back against this, but one of the things that is really eye-opening to me is the broad range of businesses that are entitled to file. An industrial company in Plant City, a landscaping company out of Hillsborough County, an office worker business over in Hillsborough County. The broad range of businesses, not just those that are out at the beaches.
Excellent, excellent, excellent point. And it is. And BP, knew this is what they agreed to, and they knew that these were the people that they wanted to compensate. You said something interesting about the regulations. I've actually talked to a few BP employees, and what they said is they said they knew that this was going to happen. And they knew that it wasn't going to be federal regulations that was going to stop it, that it was going to be attorneys out there filing the claims. And this is one area where, unlike a lot of class actions where the attorneys make the money and the clients don't, it's 100% the opposite. The clients really get compensated. As attorneys, we have to be very careful about what we promise and all of that. But I can honestly tell you that my claims, as of today, sitting here, my average claim is over $90,000. And you cannot tell me that that is not a real payment to a real client. That's not $10 or something like that. And it is. It's a great source, Matt. And you're right. Every business. I filed for a funeral home over in Plant City. I filed for an embroidery shop and got a lady, $25,000. So everybody needs to take a look.
Yeah, Clay, I put that link up there, the zone locator map. I think it's a real cool part of the settlement website that allows a client to type their address in there directly,
Yeah,
and immediately upon typing your address in there, you'll know whether you're in the claim zone, whether your business can file one.
correct. And that is really excellent. And if for some reason you don't have access, well, everybody will have access to that. But and the other thing I hear a lot about, Matt, is I hear about the different zones and how do the different zones affect me, and primarily the different zones in the settlement agreement only affect what we call causation, what you initially have to show as far as a decrease. Once the causation is done and we get into the compensation, you know, absent a few specific examples, whether you're over in Plant City or over here in Clearwater, if you're a law firm, you're going to get paid the same way. The only time the zones will affect you is if you are a tourist business out on the beach or close to the beach. So, yeah, but check in. But everybody in that county, I don't care if you are literally a half a mile from Polk County over in Hillsborough County, you are eligible over there. And don't be fooled
Yeah,
that.
Clay, let's talk about the decline in property value claims because I'm hearing a lot about that from my clients who might have had rental property or their own property. Talk about those property claims.
The property claims, there's essentially two types. The first type of property claim down in this area is what we call the income property, the rental property, and those are treated very similar to other businesses. Originally, we look at the rental income by month and we see if there's any patterns that way. So that's how we treat rental property. As far as what we call real property claims, it's a piece of property that you either own as your homestead or as a vacation property, but you don't generate any income. Unfortunately, down here in this part of the state of Florida, there is no claim. The only people who can get a claim as far as just for owning a piece of property is if oil actually touched the sand in their area. And generally that has been really considered the panhandle and hasn't actually come down the west coast. So for here down here, the type of property claim that I normally see is the income property claim. The only other type of property claims that I've seen is I've seen contracts for the sale of property that were lost because of the BP oil spill. We've been able to file those. So real property down here, income. If you happen to have property up in the Panhandle, there is a claim for that. Uh, the specifics is that they essentially look at what the value of your property was according to the tax records the day before the spill, and then there's a set formula. To be truthful with you, I've only filed a few of those claims just because they don't affect as much down here, but there is a very straightforward formula. And what I would suggest to anybody who has property and wants to just see if it's in that area, if you go into that link that Matt put up there for typing in your address, it'll let you know exactly all the different zones you're in and whether you would have a real property claim or not.
Cool. All right, well, Clay, thanks very much for your time today. This session is obviously recorded, and the way you and I are working together is anybody's got a question, they've got my contact info, your contact information directly. They've got both of us working together to make sure that they're getting the best representation and good client service that I know you're so focused on, as is my firm. But we'll go ahead and sign off. Look forward to having clients follow up with us directly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.